Good morning, wherever you may be. A little nod to the late, great Bill Schonely as the NBA season kicks off. Our beloved Portland Trailblazers, our young, beloved Trailblazers getting out of the gate last night. You know what? Optimism reigns eternal. So I will leave it at that. I'm Doug Zanger, Executive Director of Think Northwest. Thank you all so much for joining us. For those of you who are members, thank you so much for your support. For those of you who are not yet members, please get in touch with us. Come see us at thinknw.org. Plenty of links to get to me. Zanger at thinknw.org. I don't have a banner, fancy banner to put at the bottom of that. It's just my last name at thinknw.org. Our organization is growing, and our goals are very, very simple: to advance the business impact of bold, creative thinkers in the Pacific Northwest. We do this in 3 ways. Number 1, it's all about growth of individuals, growth of your business. Secondly, it is building community and unifying the marketing community within the Pacific Northwest and sharing that story beyond the borders of the Pacific Northwest. That is Oregon, Washington, Idaho, British Columbia, and Alaska. And the biggie for us is visibility, making sure that our members get a chance to get in front of editors at global trade publications, tell stories that we can raise visibility on, and generally just do everything in our power to ensure that our members get a chance to be seen, heard, and to be collaborated with. One of whom joining us today, Lori Bartle, coach and collaborator, Cultivagency. What's interesting is technically you're not in the Pacific Northwest, but you are one of our, we have quite a few members outside of the Pacific Northwest that have joined Think Northwest.
Well, actually, I have my place in Southern Oregon now, so I am officially a resident of the Pacific.
Okay, so that's Gold Beach, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Your background is very much what we look at. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. Gold Beach. It's so funny because when we go to the coast out here, like the northern coast or the central coast, and then you hear people say, oh no, you can swim all the time in the ocean, like, Gold Beach and down there, it's like it's all hot and warm. It's like, it's not the Caribbean.
No, it's not. No, it's great for dogs though, running and walking with your dogs.
Exactly. Now, you and I have known each other for a long time. So I'd love for you to give a little bit of background, because you have a lot of, obviously, agency experience, but give everybody a little bit more of an idea of your experience and what you've been up to.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in this crazy business for 30 something years. And for me, I've sat on really multiple sides of the desk. I started out in media sales. From there, I moved into the media group within an agency. That was my first agency exposure. I've been on the client side a couple of times, but most of my career was in account management and client leadership. And I think what's great about my path is that I had a really broad perspective and POV on business and industry. And I really feel like that has served me well along my career in relating with my clients and, thinking about their business holistically.
Right.
And then along the way, I picked up an MBA for myself because I knew at some point I was going to want to teach. So I'm really psyched to be here with you today talking about this program. That's a little bit about me. And
yeah, perfect. Yeah. So I want to dig into this because a couple things. We're going to get a little bit, again, more of a snapshot of your experience, a little bit more depth, and then very specific ways that you work with agencies and account teams. And since you are a member, you have a lot of generosity coming up as it relates to it. But this super session, agency super session, a business first approach to enhancing client outcomes. And I really like where this is going. So instead of me sitting here trying to fumble through, let's kick in. You touched a little bit on your background, but talk a little bit more about it.
Well, on the again, I mean, it's listed out here, but from an agency standpoint, although I started my first job was with DDB in the media group, most of my career has been with mostly mid-sized independent agencies, billing anywhere from 30 to $200 million. And so along the way, again, spending most of my time in account management, I've seen and observed a lot of changes happening within the agencies. Obviously, lots of change. And group that, in my view, hasn't gotten a lot of love and attention over the years has been the account management group. And I think to the detriment of that group. And so that's my new focus. I hope this will be my last job in our industry as a partner to agencies, really focusing on, revitalizing that discipline, developing proactive client leaders as cultivators of growth. And I think their point of difference within the agency and what's so relevant to what we're talking about today is nobody else in the agency is as well positioned to be the business expert, right? The business, the category, the competitive set. That's what they are uniquely positioned to really own and how they can drive value within the agency. And that's what this is all about.
Yep. Let's move on here.
Okay. Okay, so why this program? So I feel like there are a lot of signals out there in the world telling us that we need to really be drilling down into the business, with much more of a laser focus. So these are just a few of those signals. Even the account planning group, right? When we think about account planners and all of their expertise, their 2023 skills survey report said the thing they most need training in is understand business context, right? Consulting on business transformation. John Harris from WPI came away from Cannes this year, and in talking with clients throughout that week, he came back feeling like what clients are telling him is, we need help with a lot of things. And, beyond media and content, we need you to look under the hood with us and really prioritize the business of the brand versus the brand of the business. So, 4A's has changed their account management committee to business leadership. IPA issued a report a couple of years ago, actually, that said clients are noticing that these business skills are not being valued or developed. So this is what this is all about, is really, helping particularly the account and client groups to step back and take a more holistic picture of the business. And on the next slide, Doug, go ahead. The most recent example of what I'm talking about is, I think last week, this new agency launched itself, and the Actionists is an agency built by marketers for marketers because they believe, and it says their mission, is to make marketing more actionable to the business. So this is what I'm talking about. They're feeling like as agency partners, we're not close enough to the business in order to, drive results, the kind of results that they need or want. So that's what's behind all of this. So what I've done as part of my practice and partnership with agencies is to develop a new workshop for client and account groups called Building Business Acumen. And this is based on my favorite, one of my very favorite programs from the MBA program that I took, which, by the way, was with Washington State University. It just occurred to me. Anyway, it's called Building Business Acumen, and it really is, I'm positioning it as an opportunity for these guys to really practice, right? I mean, it's their real world scenarios. I'm giving them the opportunity to dig into certainly real world brands that we're reading about in the trades and practicing their skill at stepping back and, looking at the business from a really foundational level. And, the goal is at the end of the 6-week program, that we're starting to develop that business first mentality and discipline. So there's kind of 3 components to it. I'm giving them a weekly assignment to do a mini business brief. And, we do lots of briefs in our industry, obviously, but this one is specifically designed for them to go all the way back to the beginning and be able to, articulate what somebody's business model is, what they think their core business strategy is, again, who they think their audiences are, and just kind of, again, building their comfort level, if you will, in talking about and really being able to describe things that aren't marketing related. And then we've got a course long project, and I'm giving them the opportunity to pick whatever brand or business they want to work on. It can be a current client, and a lot of the participants have done that, which makes all the sense in the world,
Right.
or it can be a dream client. And then thirdly, I'm recommending that they read this great book, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, and we'll talk about that at the end. So this is just a quick summary of what I just said, just gives you a little bit more on of the specifics. Again, part of the goal is to get them comfortable doing the kind of research. And again, there's obviously all the information in the world is at our fingertips. And so being able to sift through that, analyze it, put together some cohesive thoughts that are business focused, again, not necessarily brand and marketing focused, is proving to be incredibly motivating to these guys. And if you go ahead, Doug, I think I've got a slide that gives you in their words. So this was from a poll that I took in the week 2 of the program, and they're taking this really seriously. And there's a cohort underway right now, and they're talking about wanting to improve their strategic thinking and their ability to plan for business growth and understanding the bigger picture and thinking beyond execution. So, they definitely are taking this opportunity seriously. And a couple of other verbatims that I pulled from a poll. It's good practice to take a step back and start ground up with companies. It's a fun change of pace. So you can hear from them that the expectation currently doesn't really exist, which is, what I think we need to change. I think we need to start getting, much more specific and granular with the kind of knowledge that we want and need this group to obtain and then share with the rest of the team. And so these are the learning outcomes. Again, greater understanding of business context, building confidence in their ability to understand and really speak the language of business. I'm hoping that this will help build them into more informed, proactive partners to their clients and their agency teams. And to your point, Doug, it's all about growth, making them even more effective in being able to cultivate growth for both the clients and the agencies. So that's what we're setting out to do. And it's going great. The first cohort's really enjoying it. I've got another session starting in January. And for any of you in the Think Northwest membership, I'm certainly happy to offer a 20% discount to any of your teams that would like to participate in this program. And I'm certainly available. Well, we're going to see if there are any questions here. I think that's the end of the slides.
Is it? It's thank you. There it is.
Yeah.
There's all your information.
Contact info.
All right. So I've got, and we'll put all this information in a post here. But here's, so a couple questions. And observations. So yes, brands need to have agencies working harder, but here's my, I don't want to say counterpoint, but there's in the existence of agencies, their role has been to solve a client's business problem. So on the creative side, so I'm looking at this through the creative lens a little bit more. It occurs to me that growing this level of sophistication on the account side, because most briefs come from the account teams and strategists, it occurs to me that the briefs will probably be better. They'll probably be better creative.
One would hope so.
Well, yeah. But I guess where my, like, I like tilt my head sometimes where when I hear brands say, well, we need them to understand our business more. I'm like, yeah, no, we get that. and we've been doing that. But hearing this, like what's been missing in the past that now all of a sudden everyone's saying, "Oh, we need to look at it this way."
Well, I think that, having the wherewithal to push to peel back the onion, right? Like what seems to be maybe what we think or the client may think the objective is for a particular initiative isn't always the root cause. I think that the opportunity is to go deeper, peel back the onion, and try to figure out, get to some more of the root causes of what is becoming, a challenge in the marketplace. So having the wherewithal, particularly within the account and client group, to have that conversation, that back and forth, and gently, proactively, and in the best, partnership kind of way, um, potentially challenge the thinking, challenge, what it is that we think we're out to solve. It could be something else. It could be something that has nothing to do with the brand and marketing and everything to do with the business. Who knows? But having the ability to have a robust conversation about the problem that we are solving is what I think is missing.
Okay. No, and that's fair. And the world has become more complex. Media has become more complex. It's become much more fragmented. It's, it can be a very daunting and confusing world for clients ranging from smaller to all the way up to very, very large brand advertisers. Um,
Sure.
what what I'm curious about, and I had the thought and I lost it, and I had this pad sitting here, and I was going to write this question down. Um, but oh, I know what it was. If you are an agency and you are in fact challenging your client, because that is really important, because there is a distinction between a vendor relationship, in my mind, a vendor relationship
Hmm.
and a partnership. Now, traditionally, the
Hmm.
agency has come in and be like, "Okay, okay, do the advertising. Cool. That's our thing." And then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh god, we got all these other things going on. What can you do to help us there?" How should an agency, and specifically account teams, approach a client that, if you have a contrarian view of saying, "Well, you're saying this is the problem, but what we've determined is it's actually this," and they don't want to hear it. How does an account team break through that objection?
Well, that's a good question, and I think that speaks to the relationship that you're developing. And I do acknowledge that clients give conflicting input a lot,
Sure.
Doug. They'll say one thing but want something else. I mean, that happens all the time, right? And so I think that if there's trust in the relationship, I certainly would hope that there would be some openness to at least exploring. And I think it might be that those kinds of conversations, you might have to move up the food chain. But if the relationship is one that is open and transparent and you're results oriented, if all of those good things are in play, then there ought to be an openness to at least have a conversation. That's where it starts, right? Like, before we take your brief and run with it, let's take a little time out and talk about it. And it may not go anywhere. Not every time will it, but I think if you've got really good knowledge and you've got some rationale behind what it is that you're saying,
Right,
it's not that you're just challenging it,
right.
blindly, that you've got a point of view. There's a point of view, but backed with some evidence that there may be more to the story.
When it comes to performance, one thing that, you know, I tell my students in my intro to advertising class at Portland State University is, um, one of the traps that clients have set, and I've gone through it, chances are you've gone through it, is this idea of guaranteeing performance. And earlier in my
Mhm.
career, it's a simple question where it's, "Is this going to work?" And so we're talking about, the campaign. We're talking about all the things that go underneath that. What I tell students is, I don't know yet. What I can tell you is this is our best. We have done all of the work to set ourselves up to be successful. Early in my career, I was just trying to keep a client happy, and I just, it was like, yeah, no, this will work just great. Talk about that a little bit, because I think that because that dynamic is really, really important. You talk about trust and building trust. The reality is
Mhm.
you may have done all of the good research. You've dug into the business. You've done all of these things. But how do you set the expectation realistically?
Well, there are, w- with technology today, you can dip your toes into the water and test concepts without having to break the bank. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to
Sure.
mind for me. You can establish some sort of an experimental structure, and again, you can keep that investment pretty tight, get some early learnings, iterate on it. I mean, we're not suggesting that we, go out great guns with something that is unproven. But I do believe that nowadays we can, we should have an experimental mindset, and we should be able to manage through that in a way that makes everybody feel comfortable about trying something new. So that's kind of my first thought, Doug.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then there's another school of thought, and I interviewed OKRP out of Chicago, and
Uh-huh.
um, we were talking about Metro, the T-Mobile brand, Metro Wireless, and we were talking about the brief and how they did their research. Uh, you know, digital's great in a lot of ways, right? But I want to get back to this human side of it, where the creatives and the strategists and the account teams, they were going into the stores. They were talking to the customers. They were
Hmm.
talking to the employees. Like, all of these things, we are so enamored with all things digital. I mean, we're sitting here doing a live stream right
I
now,
know. Yeah.
ergo. But uh, talk a little bit about the importance of some of the things you and I coming up. Those were the things that were seared into us. It's to get to know this business. You need to know the customer, and you need to experience it. And it's the adage of get on the factory floor.
Yep. Yep. No, I wrote about this, in fact, recently, because the pandemic has, gotten us out of the habit of being on the ground, right? I mean, I think we are getting back to normal, but that is a practice that I think we have to really intentionally try to recreate, which is being on the ground.
Yeah.
And, a great brief, a stellar brief is obviously, what you use as a foundational piece of your work, but there's nothing like firsthand experience, not just observing, right, like you were just describing, but also experiencing it for yourself. As an account person, it used to be my job to make sure that my team was using the product, right, or
Right.
using the service. Like, that was part of our job. Has your team, are they buying the water? Are they, using the cell phone program? Those things, that matters for sure. There's nothing like it.
Right. And there's a certain vanity that goes into that as well. So I want to put this back up here. Uh, as here's our thank you slide. Again, this is a great program. What's that?
No, oh, nothing. I was joking. Yeah, no, it's resonating with the teams. They're really, and what's alarming, it's sort of alarming, right? It's alarming that it seems like new territory for them. I mean, I'm glad that they are recognizing it and enjoying it as something different than what they do on a day-to-day
Right.
basis. But it's alarming that it's like, oh, understanding the business, from the ground up is really cool. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
it's a
it's
lesson.
the analog would be our industry in general, right? We go back to Ayer in Philadelphia as the first agency, and then you start going through the Burnbachs and the Ogilvies and the Mary Wells Lawrences, and then you start going to the West Coasters like, Dan and Dave and Lee Clow and Goodby Silverstein, and then you move into the next phase, which is Crispin and all of those merry band of creative fools. And then you go through it, but it is important because understanding the context of it, because you may be working with a brand or a company that's 100 years old. And one thing I will say is Wyden Kennedy, one of the things that they say, especially when they're working with a brand that has heritage, is they like to go through the attic. They like to go through the brand attic, which I think is great.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
I love that
yeah,
too. I love
yeah, and
that
again,
too.
I think these are really clearly fundamentally important things that people are going to learn in this program with you, Lori. But at the same time, it's a reminder that we have to go back to the basics.
Yes.
And if you can bring the basics back in with the new way of thinking, then you're setting yourself up to be very successful, potentially. Can't promise anything though.
100%. No, no, but you can have an experimental mindset
There we go.
again, and you can make incremental improvements that might lead to big things.
To big
So,
things, to
yeah.
big things. And yeah, big things happening, Lori. Appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to have you sit tight with us as we wrap this up. Thank you to everybody here joining us today. If you are catching this on the recorded version, again, we will provide all of that information to get in touch with Lori and her great generosity for this program. A reminder, if you are a member, thank you. I'm going to get all OPB on you here. If you are not yet a member, please reach out. It is Zanger, Zanger at thinknw.org. We're happy to walk you through some of the finer details of Think Northwest, where we are now and where we're headed for 2024. So a few things for the agency community. We will be reinvigorating a creative award in 2024. Member agencies get a chance to participate in some very specific agency-only programs, including visibility and outreach to brands around the world. Get in touch with me, Zanger, Zanger at thinknw.org. And on behalf of all of us, including our wonderful board here at Think Northwest, I'm Doug Zanger, and we'll see you next time.